And the state pension will never be taxed under the Tories, says Rishi Sunak. He's introducing this triple lock plus, quad lock, quadruple lock, setting his eyes on all the voters during the election campaign.
Well, Labour have called the Tories' move desperate, but does it add up? GBNews economics and business editor Liam Halligan will be here to tell us all with On the Money. So, Liam, break it down for us.
Strap yourself in, guys. It's a little bit complicated, but don't worry, we can get through this. What is triple lock plus? Crikey. Now, what the triple lock is was a policy that exists to this day, brought in by the Conservatives and the Lib Dems in coalition during that 2010-2015 government. And what it states, and here is the graphic, it states that each year the state pension goes up by the highest of either inflation or the growth of pay or 2.5%. That's the triple lock. Your state pension goes up each year by the highest of those three things. Now, this year it went up by 8.5%. The full state pension, if you became a pensioner after 2016, is now £11,502 a year. But the personal tax allowance, the amount of money you can get, if you like, before you start paying income tax, that's frozen at £12,570 until 2028. That's a Tory decision. Rishi Sunak and then Jeremy Hunt, as successive chancellors, froze that threshold until 2028. And what that means, because the state pension's about 11.5 grand at the moment and the tax allowance is 12.5 grand, over the next few years, up until 2028, as the state pension goes up, according to the triple lock, the state pension will become more than the tax allowance. And what the Tories are saying is if they get back in government, they will move that tax allowance for people getting the basic state pension so they don't pay tax. So what the Tories are doing is they are saying that an effective tax increase won't now apply to people who receive the basic state pension. I told you it was really granular and complicated, but there it is. Broadly speaking, it's good news for pensioners, but only because the Tories are excluding pensioners from a tax rise through the frozen thresholds that they're imposing on everyone else. You still with me?
Yes, yeah. So it's not extra money. It's not a bung to pensioners, really.
Exactly.
But how much better off will the average pensioner be as a result of this increase not happening?
You're exactly right, Emily, and that's a really good way to put it. It's not a tax cut. It's a reprieve for some people, those who receive the basic state pension, from a tax rise that's being imposed on everyone else, that tax rise through a frozen personal allowance. It's really difficult to say how much this will impact the average pensioner because, of course, pensioners have other incomes that will take them over the personal allowance. They might have rental properties, they might have investments, dividends, a little bit of work here and there, whatever it is. So it's not taking all pensioners out of tax by any means. But the Institute for Fiscal Studies reckons this is going to cost the Treasury, if you like, about £2.5 billion a year by the late 2020s, which, when it comes to the grand scheme of things, it's a rounding error when it's over that many years. But of course, this is the Tories trying to make up for the fact that the tax cuts they've done so far have been on national insurance, haven't they? We've talked about that a lot on GB News. And of course, pensioners don't pay national insurance. So those tax cuts for pensioners worth about 900 quid, the government says ad nauseum a year for the average worker of working age, that is, off their national insurance. Pensioners don't get that little boost to their income, and that's why the Tories are doing this, so we can have a day of them saying, oh, look, we really love pensioners, we're doing this for them. But I have to say, this is pretty small beer. This is a slight tweak to a tax rise for the rest of us, rather than any huge pension giveaway.
And yet there has been a considerable rise in the pension through the triple lock, which is the reason why pensions are now being pushed up beyond that tax bracket. They went up by double digits last year. They're due to go up faster and faster and have been going up ahead of average wages.
That's right, Tom. We've had a 10-odd% increase in the basic state pension, and now we're up for an 8% or so increase in basic state pension. In one case, it was because inflation was very high. In the other case, it was because pay growth was very high. But in the round, by international standards, by the standards of other advanced industrial economies, if you like, the UK basic state pension is still pretty small. It has to be said. That's just what the statistics show. I grant you, absolutely, and this is the debate that the politicians should be having if they could focus on policy rather than personalities for more than 1 second. On the other hand, there have been large increases in the basic state pension, but having said that, it is still quite low by international standards. So that's it. The grey vote is, of course, 11.5 million voters. Pensioners tend to vote more than younger people. They tend to get out there and exercise their right at the ballot box on polling day. And that's why all parties will always, as the phrase goes, suck up to the grey vote, because they turn up and vote. And now this...
Liam, just very quickly, one question. Do you know how many pensioners rely solely on the state pension for their income?
Well, again, it's really hard to say because our household level data in this country is not great. It's at least half, so it's at least 5 to 6 million pensioners are relying solely on the basic state pension. And we must say, while Tom's completely right, the basic state pension has gone up in recent years, and while means-tested benefits for pensioners have also gone up, there is still quite a bit of pensioner poverty in this country. And this is the really difficult thing for politicians, not something I say very often, feeling sorry for politicians. On the one hand, there are wealthy pensioners, people of your generation, you two, with all respect, you can say, oh, they've got all the houses, they've got all the money, the baby boomers. What about our generation? Why should we be paying more tax so they can have a better retirement? So there are quite a few wealthy pensioners out there with lots of equity in their housing and so on. But there's also quite a lot of pensioner poverty out there. So it's very, very hard to target assistance on the grey vote, if you like, particularly when you're dealing with a non-means tested benefit, a universal benefit that everyone gets, like the basic state pension. It's kind of mad that everyone gets it, whether they're a business tycoon or a person living elderly alone who has to decide between heating and eating. But that is the basis of our welfare system. We have universal benefits. That's been the case since William Beveridge after World War II. And I'm yet to meet a politician in my long experience of the world of policy and politics. I've yet to meet a politician who would even dare to think about moving away from that universal benefit model.
Well, perhaps it will have to become inevitable as we get a larger population of people in retirement and a smaller population of people in work funding that retirement. Difficult decisions have to be made. But Liam Halligan, thank you very much for explaining all of that. Really appreciate it, as always, with On the Money.